Tribuners kasus harian positif infeksi virus corona di Indonesia per minggu 31 Januari bertambah 12.001 kasus baru. Dengan begitu, akumulasi total kasus di tanah air mencapai 1.078.314 orang positif corona.
Jumlah orang yang terpapar COVID-19 di Indonesia menembus angka 1 juta orang.
Listening to all of us, we know that the COVID-19 virus has started to become hot news since 2020 and began to enter our country, which initially only a few people were infected with the virus, but until now it is almost 1 year. This pandemic has attacked our country, and Indonesia has not success its resolving case. Even though the government has tried to continue, encourage and issue regulation for all people to start new habits, for the example, wearing a mask. But there are still many of our people who still ignore this practice until the issue of sanction. This discussion was wrong that I will bring this issue of tendency and here to make a scientific paper entitled Law Culture Enforcement on Public in the Midst of COVID-19 Pandemic. Before I presentation my scientific paper, let's introduce myself. My name is Berprestasi. I'm from class 1 on Faculty of Law. In the scientific paper, I will split into 5 major parts, namely an introduction, review of related literature, research methodology, discussion, and in the last section is conclusion. In chapter 1, this preliminary introduction is the formulation of the research objective and the benefits of research on the background of the problem, infection of the coronavirus, and news about how many positive patients have even died in the world based on data from WHO or World Health Organization. Then the Indonesian government has started to define the coronavirus as a national disaster based on the long case of patients on Indonesia. The government and all law information officials are trying to issue restrictions which in fact ignore, and this is the reason for the increase in the number of positive cases in Indonesia. For scientific writing, I met to analyze and find out how the legal culture of the Indonesian people, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. I wrote scientifically. I made this by using the observational research methods by looking at the news in the mass media and events that I observed in around area myself. The most important part of my work are two topic discussion about what are the government preventive efforts in the handling the COVID-19 outbreaks. In the first section, there are a lot of preventive efforts made by the government, starting from wearing a mask, washing hands, and keeping your distance. But these things still ineffective among the community until the government is regulation for handling COVID-19 through forming a task force. Until finally, there were lockdowns, work from home, online school to large-scale social restriction efforts based on Law Number 6 of 2018 on home quarantine. Then in all mass media, the government has submitted all new regulations for handling COVID-19, but in reality until now, there has been no significant change in handling COVID-19 in Indonesia. In the second part of my discussion, I discuss the legal culture that exists in Indonesian society during the COVID pandemic. Can you say a healthy legal culture as a rule of law? Law or regulation must be obeyed as an Indonesian identifies itself as a rule of law. In the midst of the pandemic, there are so many regulations that people must have a high awareness of the culture of obeying the law. In fact, the people themselves, even some officials, are not afraid of this pandemic until the government gives sanction for violators. As an example of case in the large-scale social restriction in Jakarta, which refers to Article number 7 of 2020 Governor Regulation, which prohibits residents from leaving the house if it's not in an urgent situation, but the community still violates it is because it is considered only to be scared. What was finally acted upon was given a fine sanction but rejected. The second case that I observed was that in the city of Solo, a lot of residents still create crowds like weddings that invite many residents who were finally dealt with by law enforcement officials. Apart from that, regarding the wearing of masks and attention for few people who are caught violate and then given sanction to clean environment and sanction. From the discussion and looking at the facts about the existing cases it can be concluded that the legal culture of Indonesian people is still very lacking and ineffective government efforts in handling a COVID-19 pandemic. I suggest together we release of legal culture in the midst of this pandemic for all levels of society to success on the rules made by the government. That is enough for my presentation about my scientific paper. I apologize if there are any mistakes and thank you for all.